I want to talk again about racial reconciliation. If you're not living under a rock, you know that that's a real issue. Race is a real issue in our country right now. From the election to government to policing and in our city. It's been a very hot topic over the past year and a half, as we've had different cases with Terrence Crutcher and then what just happened this past week, and just different things that are happening that even if these things were racially or non-racially motivated, it starts getting racism and racial prejudice and black and white and Hispanic, and it dusts all that stuff up. And then the movie Get Out came out, and that messed me up, y'all. Just for at least 30 minutes after that movie, I was suspicious of many white people. If you've never seen the movie, it's okay. You don't have to. But there's things that are culturally and racially probing that are trying to make us divided. It's trying to make us divided, and that's what I'll say. And that was never God's intention. We were never supposed to see color of skin before we saw the character in somebody's life. That was never supposed to be the intent. But then we got in this flesh suit, and Adam and Eve back in the garden, and we started comparing ourselves. And why are they so tall, and why are they so short, and why are they so wide, and why they got all that booty, and why I ain't got no booty, and why? I mean, these are real. Why are they born in this side of town? Why do they live on that side of the town? Why does it seem like this? And comparison still runs rampant in all of our daily lives today. I dare say that many of the situations that we come in contact with are racially, we see them through a racial lens, and we have not even acknowledged it. It's just how we are. You walk into a room full of black people, and your heart, if you're white, starts pumping a little faster. Now, I'm saying stuff that people have told me. Okay? You're black, and you come in, and it's all Hispanic people. And there's something in your mind, oh, this must be a quinceañera. This must be. This must be, and what we do is we assume. An assumption is one of the deadliest things that you can do because it usually leaves you looking like the first three letters of that word. You forfeit relationships that could benefit your life. You cut off the exchange that you could have with some of God's children. Because we assumed. It was funny, one time I was at Utica Square. I eat there a lot. I have meetings there a lot of time at the Wild Fork. And if you know anything about Utica Square, most of the shops over there, she works there, most of the shops over there, they're upscale shops. They're a little more expensive shops. So I'm eating at the Wild Fork, and I look hood this day. I mean, I'm in a hoodie. I'm in some J's. I just came from working out. But the people know me there. We have a great relationship. And so I intentionally do stuff to throw people off. Like, I just intentionally. So I went up to this elderly white woman, and she saw me coming. And you know how when you're trying to look at somebody, you're not trying to look? She's like. And I could only assume that the only reason she was looking at me the way that she was looking at me is because she might have had some preconceived notions about what a 6'2" black man in a hoodie would want to do with her. If we're going to be real, we're going to be real today. So even though she had never met me in my entire life, she had already made some assumptions that made her continue to look at me like, I'm not taking my eyes off you, brother. And I walked up to her and I threw her completely off. I said, ma'am, that is such a beautiful brooch you have on. She said, huh? And I said, man, where did you get this? And she began to talk to me about how she'd been shopping at that area for over 30 years and how her daughter works over here and she comes every Thursday morning to da-da-da-da. And we had a 30-minute conversation because I challenged her norm. And I stepped across the line and tried to form relationship with somebody that we probably don't even have that much in common until I made us have something in common. Today as the church, we can't take sides because of the color of our skin of anything. We have to be able to live biblically on everything that is happening in our world, in our society, and in our lives. And so today I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it. Can I be real today? Can we? No, okay, let me get permission. Can I be real today? Okay. This may not be able to be aired afterwards, but if it's going to change, it's got to start with us. It's got to start with the church, and it's got to start with each one of us in this room. And so I'm going to talk about it. As I talk to you about Arthur being my drum teacher, he gave me a really profound appreciation, even back to my dad and all the people around. I love music. I mean, how many people in the room love music? Like you love music, okay? And you know, some of y'all can't sing, but it's, you know, it's one of those things that it doesn't even matter. You love music. And I used to produce music and do a lot of different things in that area. And I've always had this thing, I wanted to share this with y'all, but I've always had this thing that I've wanted to be invented called situational surround sound. And it's like the most perfect song comes on at the right moment when something is happening and you don't even have to tell it to come on. You don't even have to press play. It just comes on automatically. I've always dreamed like when I'm done talking to somebody and this conversation is completely over and I'm like, okay, well, I'll see you later. I'll talk to you later. I wish this song would come on right here. I wish this song literally would just come on out of nowhere. Like, I wish this song would come on. Oh, it's good to see you. All right. Bye. Like, I wish that would happen. And like, when I get to heaven and I'm looking on the streets of gold and looking for my house, this is what I want to play right here. Oh, what's up, Abraham? What's up, Paul? 24 karat magic. I want that to come on. I think God will be okay if 24 karat magic comes on. Y'all too saved. Look at y'all. Y'all know that's funky. Now, when I was thinking about this title of racial reconciliation, and when we get to heaven, I think this song may play. Y'all don't know nothing about that. Y'all don't know nothing about that. Peaches and Herb, 1970. She said, ah! You don't know nothing about that. How many people know something about that right there? Okay, they said this was a young church. I guess not. But I thought about that. See, now everybody's okay. I had to do that because everybody would calm down. Now, that song, Reunited, and It Feels So Good, I started thinking about that. And we're either going to have one of two testimonies when we get to heaven. I'm convinced that either we'll be able to say, about all races and all ethnicities and all backgrounds, we'll be able to say we're reunited and it feels so good because we did it on earth already. Or we'll be able to say we're united for the first time and I really should have had a relationship with them. I really should have invited them to my kid's birthday party. I really should have invited them to that function I was having at my house because many people are missing out on one of the greatest experiences and exchanges of their life by having different ethnicities a part of their everyday life. John gives us a picture of this in Revelations. I want you to turn to Revelations chapter 7, verse 9. And this is Paul, and he has a prophecy, and he's seeing heaven. God is showing him heaven, and this is what he says in verse 9. It says, after this, I saw a vast crowd, too many people to count. It says they were from every nation, every tribe, every people and every language. Another translation says every tongue and every race. It says they were standing in front of the throne before the Lamb, and they were clothed in white robes. How many people have never sang in a choir before? In heaven, you get to sing in a choir, white robes and all. And they held palm branches in their hands, and they were shouting with a great roar, "Salvation comes from our God who sits on the throne and from the Lamb." So when people ask me, what do you think, Pastor Mike, about this racial reconciliation thing? What do you think about it? I have 3 words. I say it's going to happen. I mean, I don't care what it looks like right now. We have a picture of the end. So many people are looking at the situation, and God gave us a picture in Revelations of what it's going to be. Every tongue, every race, every background, every thigh size, every waist size, every person, every hair texture. They're going to be worshiping around the throne singing, "Worthy is the Lamb." So when people ask me about racial reconciliation, I say it's going to happen. And I can't wait. So I don't wait. See that there's a difference when people are like, I can't wait for it to happen, so make it happen. See, I can't wait, I don't wait, and I won't wait. As for me and my family, we have made a decision to make the picture that heaven has already painted for us happen on earth. Well, Pastor Michael, that's easier said than done. There is nothing new under the sun. This racism stuff has been going on since the very, very beginning. But God sent his children, people who are born again, to make it as it is in heaven on earth. Well, Pastor Mike, I don't know about that. Go to Matthew 6:10. And Jesus is talking to the disciples, and they see him pray a different way. And they're like, "Man, Jesus, can you teach us how to pray like that?" He said, "Yeah, I'll teach y'all." And he gave us a blueprint that we call the Lord's Prayer. But I want you to see this with the lens of reconciliation. He says that if you're going to pray, pray like this. Pray, "Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." He said, "Your kingdom come. Your will be done." On where? Where we live right now, as it is in. So if the picture is every race around the throne in heaven, worshiping and praising and living together, Matthew tells us our prayer, our daily prayer, should be make it on earth as it already is in. So my question is, are you living your life to see the picture of heaven on earth? And the reality of it is many of us aren't, because of our backgrounds and what our big mama told us and what our Uncle John told us and what Cousin Bob told all of us. You stay away. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Let's be real. Uncle Juju told you, now listen, son, if you ever get around, y'all know the conversations that have been passed down from generation to generation. The unspoken things that aren't said, but you know. Those things that when you walk in, y'all know, y'all seen it even with President Obama. You walk in and you're shaking everybody's hand and you see a brother like, "What a fool, what a fool, what a fool." And hi. I'm just saying things that we see, but that's rooted somewhere. That comes from a place. And my challenge today is that God is asking us, me and you, to not conform to the patterns of this world. That's Romans 12:2. But be transformed by the renewing of our. That means there's some things that have been programmed in us that are not like God. And it was born in us because we were born in this flesh suit. We were born into society that had racial tension. We were born into these families. And God said, "I know you got it. I knew you had it. So I'm going to send my son. And when I send my son, I'm going to give you a new race first. I'm going to make you Christian. I'm going to wash away everything. No, neither Jew or Gentile, black or white, Hispanic or Asian. I'm going to give you the blood of Jesus, and I'm going to wash you in that so that people will know you by your love. And I want to reprogram your mind." So that's why he says we can boil the whole thing down to love your neighbor as yourself. We can boil this whole. Now, he didn't say your black neighbor or your white neighbor or your affluent neighbor or your poor neighbor. He said your neighbor. So whoever God has sent you around, you're supposed to love them. So today, I'm just challenged that many people, let's not talk about people who don't know Christ right now. Just let's leave it, because they don't know. They still got in them the seed of hatred and frustration and all these other things that doesn't get changed until you accept the grace of God. But let me talk to the church for a second. Because the saddest part about the narrative of all the racism that's going on is probably some of the most visceral and venomous prejudice happens in God's church. Martin Luther King once said the most segregated hour of a week is Sunday morning at this time. Because you got white church and black church and Hispanic church. And we just want to worship where we're comfortable. Stop it. That's not what God called us to look like. He said that we should be able to walk into any church, any place that bears the name of Jesus Christ and feel comfortable, feel loved, feel accepted, feel like you can be able to praise. But that leads me to think that there may be something wrong in God's house with God's people. And I don't think we've taken our responsibility to reconcile people to ourselves and to God. Well, Pastor Mike, race reconciliation, that's great. I don't really feel like that's my responsibility. Well, let's look at 2 Corinthians chapter 5. And I want us to all look at this together. It says, this means that anyone, who? Anyone. Who? Anyone who belongs to Christ. He has become a new person. Okay. So that means if your family was racist, when you became a Christian, you became a new person. That means, and I'm not talking about just white people being racist. I know some black people that are more racist than anybody in the world. I want to be very clear about this. This is not a white and black message. This is a humanity message. Does everybody hear what I'm saying? Okay, I want you to hear me say this very clearly, that when you come to Christ, he gives you the title of new creation. And then he clarifies, because most of us wouldn't be able to understand it just like that. He said, the old life is gone. He said, you missed it. You thought you was going to be able to keep those racist comments in your back pocket in case somebody made you too mad. He said, the old life is gone. The old life is no longer valid now that you've become a believer. Your old response is no longer acceptable after accepting Christ into your life. And he said, and a new life has become. Verse 18, 2 Corinthians 5, verse 18, it says, and all of this is a gift from God who brought us back to himself through Christ. And God has given us this task of reconciling people to him. But how can you reconcile somebody to him if you will not even communicate with them? How can I tell you about a sale that's going on if I won't talk to you? I want you to see he's given us the ministry of reconciliation. He said, for God was in Christ reconciling the world to himself. He said, I've already shown you the picture. No longer counting people's sin against them. And he gave us this wonderful message of reconciliation. Check this. So we are Christ's ambassadors. We're his representatives. And this messes me up every time. God is making his appeal through us. I want you to see this. That God is literally saying, I'm giving you at salvation. Anybody wear fanny packs in the 80s? Did anybody have a fanny pack? Okay. I just see at salvation, you get a fanny pack. And in that fanny pack, you get love, joy, peace, the ability to turn the other cheek. The question is, do you open it up and use it? And in that fanny pack, you have the ministry of reconciliation. That God says, I'm going to put you in opportunities. I'm going to have you have workplaces that have racist and frustrated people that work with you. And I need you to be my representative in that place. I need you to open that fanny pack and give them the ministry of reconciliation. So you know when you come over there and they're like, oh, quiet down. Here comes Bob. Bob, you go, what up, y'all? What's up? I want to have a relationship with you. Let me take you out to lunch. And yeah, it'll be uncomfortable. Yeah, it won't be. But God said that's not for them to do. You have been given the responsibility of representing Christ everywhere you go. And that's why you have the ministry of reconciliation. So how can you reconcile if you don't have any friends that are a different color than you? When is the last time you had lunch with somebody that didn't believe and doesn't look like you? Okay. When's the last time that you saw somebody in need that wasn't a brother? Wasn't somebody that you stepped across the line and risked being uncomfortable or even embarrassed? So hopefully this could be the thing that changes their perception about me and maybe my race if they have one good interaction. And that's what God is challenging all of us to do as the church, is to use this message and ministry of reconciliation to change people. And I want to show you this in the Bible with the greatest reconciler of them all, Jesus. Go to John chapter 4. Because all of that is good and it's sad to say, but everything I've said up until this point, everybody knows. But for some reason, we haven't taken a hold of this message of reconciliation. And I know some of you guys are like, no, I have a white friend. I have a white friend. And I do have a black friend. And we are good. And listen, it's not just about a black friend and a white friend. It's about humanity. It's about when you see somebody, do you think about their race before you think about their problem? Do you think about what they need before you think about where they come from or what side of town do they live on or their situation? Are you thinking more about race or are you thinking more about grace? Because until we can answer that question, they're not going to look to the church to get any answers. And we're not going to get them from government. And we're not going to get them from the police force. And we're not going to, if the church of Jesus Christ, because nobody has been given the responsibility to reconcile except the church. And so I'm proud of everybody who showed up today. Because I put it out there that I'm ministering on racial reconciliation. Some people dodged that one like a bullet. You're at home right now online. Hey, online. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because this is the heart of the matter. And I just want to tell you a story in John chapter 4 that you probably are familiar with. It's the story of the woman at the well. And everybody's heard this story if you've been in church for any length of time. But maybe something you didn't know is Jesus in this one chapter reverses 800 years of racial division in less than 24 hours. See, we hear the woman at the well story, but we don't know the real background. And so I'm going to try to break this down to let you see that Jesus, one man, reverses 800 years of black and white, 800 years of your side of town and my side of town, 800 years of this is what y'all deserve, this is what we deserve, 800 years of racial division. He changes in 24 hours. And this is what happens in John chapter 4. And I hope, my prayer is that for you, that something in you would be changed. To start moving to be an ambassador of racial reconciliation in your sphere of influence, at your job, with your kids, with your relationships. And that God would start to heal our land, not through us, but through you. John chapter 4, Jesus is healing everybody and baptizing everybody. And that's how it starts off. And basically, the Pharisees are mad. They're like, who is this coming up here baptizing everybody? He doing more than John the Baptist? No, we got to go talk to this brother. And Jesus is like, I done baptized enough people today. We're going to go and get ahead and get up out of here. I'll see y'all later. And they said, he said, the Bible tells us that they went from Judea in the south, and they wanted to go to Galilee in the north, okay? So I just want to paint this picture because it's going to help you understand that they're in one place, and he's healing people. He don't want to deal with the foolishness. So he says, let's go to another place to be able to make interaction. The only reason why this is important is because right in the middle of those places is a place called Samaria, okay? And this is the thing. Samaria is a place with Samaritans, and they would be like African-American or Hispanic people, and the Jews and the Samaritans hated each other. There was so much racial tension because they came from the same place, but they classed each other and started comparing each other, and it would be the equivalent of white and black or some of the other racial divisions that we have. And so most people, if you were a Jew and you wanted to go up to Galilee, you would go all the way around Samaria because you didn't want to cross the railroad tracks and have anything to do with the Samaritan. Okay? So what Jesus did is he said, let's go to Galilee, but I want to go through Samaria. Now, all the disciples like, Jesus, you know what's in Samaria, right? It's those people who we're uncomfortable with, those people who we don't understand, where there's been all this prejudice in race. And Jesus said, yeah, let's go. And verse 4 tells us of John chapter 1, verse 4, it says, he had to go through Samaria on the way because there was a spiritual need there, and God was going to give us an eternal picture of racial reconciliation happening in this month and this moment. And it's John chapter 4 is what I meant to say. So please get this picture. Jews and Samaritans do not like each other. They're in the streets yelling, Samaritan lives matter. Can we be real? They've seen injustices. They've been frustrated. And Jesus is so awesome because he goes right to the heart of the issue. And if the church is going to see anything happen and we're going to be reunited as it is in heaven on earth, we can't skirt around this issue. We have to go and talk about the issue. And that's why I'm so excited we're doing this morning. Because if racial reconciliation is going to happen, let me give you point number one. It's going to start with an organism and not the organization. Now, Jesus is rolling. I love you, Dad. I love you. I mean, he said rolling. You know, every preacher needs a hype man, okay? Brother Luke, how old are you, Brother Luke? You just turned what? 90 years old, Brother Luke. Oh, y'all can do better than that. Brother Luke, on the front row, rolling. I love it. God is good, Brother Luke. Amen. That's y'all better watch out. If me and Brother Luke get on the loose. But this is what I'm saying, is Jesus knew that this racial problem, he couldn't have his disciples' impartation and agreement for it to happen. Because they were still struggling through some of their own racism. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But Jesus knew that if something was going to be done, it would start with him. Not the church. See, people are waiting for Transformation Church to do something to racially reconcile. When are we going to go? No. It's not going to start with the government. It's going to start with you. And Jesus paints this picture so much so that he decides to meet a woman at noon, but he sends the disciples away. Because he knew that where they were still racist and they couldn't handle the reconciliation that was about to happen. What are you saying, Pastor Mike? There's some people around you that are your friends, your dogs, your homie, your family that ain't going to like this next season because God's giving you a ministry of reconciliation and they're still stuck in racist past. But Jesus gives us a picture. So what does he do? He don't go off on them. Y'all all racist. And I don't know. He said, y'all go get some chicken in town. Y'all run and go get some church's chicken. And he conveniently starts saying, ooh, it's hot. I'm thirsty. I'm going to stay right here. That's what my Bible says. I'm going to stay right here. And y'all go into town. And he stopped at the place of the issue. And he met her at a specific place. It was Jacob's well. Now, why would they meet at Jacob's well? It's because the Samaritans rejected most of the Old Testament except the Pentateuch, which is the first 5 books of the Bible. And the Jews accepted that too. And so everybody loved Jacob, the Jews and the Samaritans. So Jesus was smart and he met her on common ground. He didn't meet her to reconcile where there was an issue. He met her at a place where they agreed. And if we're going to see racial reconciliation, we can't start when there's a riot. We cannot start at the point of an issue. We got to start where we agree. Everybody loves their kids. Walk up to somebody of a different ethnicity and say, you have the most beautiful child. You're not going to hear anybody say, "You get away from me, you stupid." Ain't nobody going to do that. I'm like, oh, thank you. Because it makes them feel like they're pretty, even if they're not. And it makes them, you understand what I'm saying? It makes them feel, hear me, meet people on common ground. Everybody likes to hear about themselves. That's why when that woman had a prejudgment of me, a prejudice, prejudgment of me at Utica Square, as soon as I told her her brooch was nice, her attitude changed. Oh, this little old thing. If you don't meet people on common ground, you'll never be able to see racial healing. And Jesus met this woman on common ground. Verse 7 says, he met her at the well and he asked her a question. So he decided to communicate with her. I want you to just see all of the things we have to do. He said, please give me a drink. Look at verse 9. It says, the woman was surprised. For Jews refuse to have anything to do with Samaritans. She used the past to predict the future. She was surprised because no white people, you see how she summed everybody up? Jews have nothing to do with Samaritans. White people, Hispanic people, Asian people have nothing to do with these type of people. And look at the response. She said to Jesus, I don't know if you knew, but you're a Jew. And I'm a Samaritan woman. Why are you asking me for a drink? Now, this begs a question in my mind. Jesus didn't say anything about him being Jewish. He didn't declare anything blatantly Jewish. So what this leads me to conclude is that he was obviously Jewish. That's by the way he was dressed or the way that he looked, his skin color, she knew he was a different ethnicity, just like me. You know I'm black. Nobody has to get up and put a sign up. You know, if you can see, you see that I'm African American. And what this tells me is something that's so special, that Jesus did not have to change who he was to reach somebody else. See, so many people are trying to act black or act white or do this or do that. Stop it. You don't have to deny the heritage and the culture that you came from, but you cannot respond first out of that. You have to respond first biblically. And see, this is the problem that people don't have. People have. God's not asking you to like rap if you don't, and he's not asking me to like Barbra Streisand. I saw a lady in the back, she said, Barb. He's not. But he is asking us to live biblical. And that's different. And I heard it like this. I think Tony Evans said it, and it just killed my whole life when he said it. He said, most people identify as a black Christian or a white Christian or a Hispanic Christian. He said, well, we have two things Christian is in the noun place of this phrase, and your ethnicity is in the adjective position. And if anybody knows anything about English or grammar, the adjective always it describes whatever the noun is. And he said, so we cannot put Christian as the noun. Christian has to be the adjective, so that whatever we do and however we do it and whatever we become, Christian describes what it is. So I'm a Christian business owner. I'm a Christian father. I'm a Christian African American. I'm a Christian Anglo person. Because if you do not put it in the adjective, we always have to conform our Christianity. So what I'm asking you to do is be Christian first. Be biblical first. And to do that, it's a scary thing, because that means we have to disassociate with some of the things that we have been. Come on, let's be honest. It makes me have to watch what I say. When I come into certain environments, I get comfortable in certain environments, and this is just what would come out of me. And God says that life and death is in the power of the tongue. We got to get a hold of that. Well, I've been saying it since I was 15. This is me and mine. And God says, but when you became mine, you became a new creation. The old things are now passed. Now you get a new identity. Now, this is the word. And you're going to need God to help you with this. So what are you saying, Pastor Mike? If we're going to see racial reconciliation and we're going to live biblically, we're going to have to live our life comfortably uncomfortable. See, comfortably uncomfortable has to be your new normal. What are you talking about, Pastor Mike? You're going to have to live your life comfortably uncomfortable. I had the opportunity to preach at Battle Creek 2 weeks ago, and I shared this message. And Battle Creek is about 5,000 to 7,000 members, and they're 90% white people. And the pastor wanted me to come and speak on racial reconciliation. Pastor Alex Samai, one of the greatest men I've ever met. And I went up there and I was comfortably uncomfortable. I stood up on that stage and I said, good morning, everybody. So my name is Michael Todd and I'm black. And they all started laughing. And I had to dive through this same exact topic. And I did it the same exact way and talking and using the analogies and talking to help them understand. I was comfortably uncomfortable, but me and my family have decided to live our lives like that because that's the only way we're going to see racial reconciliation. That you're not going to be comfortable in all the places God puts you. I mean, if you're just serving God at all, it's not comfortable. That's why he calls it a faith walk. Because there's going to be times where you're going to be like, is anything going to be here when I take this step? And somehow he always puts something right there. He's faithful to continue to provide for his children. So you're going to have to get used to living comfortably uncomfortable. You're going to have to get used to being in conversations where you don't know much about the topic. You're going to have to be, some of y'all with pride, you're going to have to get used to asking questions. Y'all ever had a friend that think they know everything? Like, you do not know. But they think they know everything. I Google check. No, shut up. You do not know. It happened to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's going to take you putting yourselves in experiences that are completely uncomfortable to find out something new. It reminds me of a time I went duck hunting. What? Brothers don't hunt? See, it's funny because you ain't never even heard that. When the last time you was at the barber shop and it's like, yeah, me and my boys, we went duck hunting. Like, you don't hear that. But I've decided to live my life comfortably uncomfortable. And so what happened was I had a couple of my friends who I do things in the cities with Unite My City, and they're white, and we get along, and we are always just connecting and all stuff. If it's hooping or playing basketball or going to the racetrack or playing golf, they always invite me. then when they start talking about hunting, it's like they start whispering. They like see me and they're like, hey guys, we're gonna go. And so one day, I called them out on it. I said, what's up? Why don't y'all ever invite me to go hunting? And they were like, well, we just assumed. There's that word again. We just assumed that brothers don't hunt, at least ducks. Like they don't hit ducks. And I was like, next time you go hunting, I was strong with it. Next time you go hunting, you invite me. Because I'm coming to hunt with y'all. And they was laughing and they was smiling. I was like, okay, cool. 3 weeks later, they called me. Hey, Mike, we got this duck hunting excursion set up. There's going to be geese out there. I was like, cool, man. I'm so excited about that. I don't have no gear. I don't have nothing. They're like, don't worry about the gear. We got you. We got everything you need, your gun, your boots, your camouflage. They said, you just got to be there. I said, oh, what time, 10, 11? They said 3 a.m. I said, what will we be doing at 3 o'clock in the morning? And y'all, my mind got opened up to this whole new experience. We pulled up a quick trip. There was about 3 or 4 trucks. They had a big old trailer behind them. They had thousands of dollars worth of gear. They had all these guns. And so we're out there, we're setting up what they call the blinds. And it's like where you put up fake grass to hide yourself to make the ducks think that it's real grass so you can just stand up and shoot them. And so we had to set up basically a grass tent. And then we had to go out and put what they call decoys out, which are fake ducks that cost hundreds of dollars. And they throwing grass up in the air and seeing which way the wind is blowing, so they can set the ducks, like so many of the ducks facing one way and so many of the ducks facing the other way, so that the ducks in the sky can think that the ducks on the ground are real. I mean, it was all this stuff, and that was all before 5:30 in the morning. I was so tired by the time we got. But I was willing to be uncomfortable. So now we're sitting in the blinds, and I'm the only speck of pepper anywhere near there. And they all got these semi-automatic rifles and all these things, and they done gave me a pump gun. So like they doing. I don't know if they didn't want to give me a gun or something, but. So we sitting in the blinds, and at the moment, they're calling duck, and they got all 6 and 7 duck calls and geese calls, and they're doing all this other stuff, and then they say they're coming, and then it's like, it must be devastating for a duck, but it's so exhilarating for me. There's like, pull. And everybody, it's like 9 people stand up outside of this grass, and everybody's like, pow, 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 pow. It's like the greatest feeling in the world. It's like Mario Duck Hunt in real life. Y'all know what I'm saying? It was amazing. Okay? And I got to spend 3 hours in the blinds talking faith, talking family, talking about dreams and visions with guys as we shot ducks out of the sky. But it was one of the most enriching experiences of my life. And I think we got a picture of that day. If you could put that on the screen. Doesn't that boy, come on, doesn't that boy look like he hot? Run it up! And me and my friends, you can put that other one up there, and me and my friends, we shot a lot of geese and a lot of ducks, and I don't know how many I actually shot, but I know that my gun fired, and so we shot all kinds of stuff that day. But what I wanted to say from that is, if I didn't take the chance to live my life comfortably uncomfortable, I had to get all my instructions from somebody else. I had to learn about a whole new thing. But when I did that, it enriched their lives, it enriched my lives, and now I have relationships that I'll have forever, and I'm able to reach people. When I told that hunting story at Battle Creek, those people were on the floor laughing. Because their culture has many people that hunt. And because I had that experience, we could connect. And business owners and car dealership owners and physicians came up to me afterwards and said, that was the best message. I love Pastor Alex, but that was the best message I've ever heard. But it was because I could relate. It's because I took the chance to cross the line and get comfortably uncomfortable. And if we're going to live and see racial reconciliation, God's going to ask you to live comfortably uncomfortable. He's going to ask you to take that boss that may be slightly racist but loves Starbucks. He's going to ask you to buy them a $50 Starbucks card and take them to get a drink every morning. Well, what are we going to talk about? Well, what are we going to do? It start with them. How long have you been? Your hair, it's so beautiful. Hey, how do you start? If you cross the line, one interaction with somebody of a different ethnicity that's positive can literally change the entire thought process of somebody else. And that's what Jesus did. See, I want you to realize in this story, the reason that this woman was so surprised is because Jesus was willing to put his Jewish lips on her Samaritan cup. He was willing to identify with her. He said, give me a drink. And he didn't have a cup. That means he would have had to drink from her cup. See, that's what God is asking us to do. He's asking us to at least identify with people. Even if somebody's hurting or a community is hurting or a group of people are hurting and you have no experience, just say, I know what it is like to hurt. You don't got to agree with everything, but you got to be there and hug them. You got to send a text that says, I'm sorry that happened. And that's both ways. That's every way. That doesn't matter where you are from. But until we're willing to identify with each other, there will be no racial reconciliation. So you're going to have to live your life comfortably uncomfortable. Go to verse 15. John chapter 4, verse 15. And the beautiful thing about this is Jesus decides not to let his historic prejudice of the heritage he came from, the Jewish people, keep them from the promise of their future. So Jesus offers her living water. If you drink this, you won't ever be thirsty again, and it'll give you eternal life. She said, please, sir, give me some of that water. Then I'll never be thirsty again. I don't have to come to this daggum water hole no more. And then Jesus switches the subject because now that he has relationship with her, he can go deeper into her life. See, you can't engage somebody's problem until you engage their humanity. And when he said, I identify with you, I'll drink from your cup, she said, oh, he's cool. That's a good dude. I know every other Jew I've heard about, or every other Hispanic person I've heard about, or every other Asian I've heard about, but this one's able to identify with me. So then he asked her, hey, go get your husband. And you know, most people, now if we ethnically don't see eye to eye, I'm not about to tell you my business. Look, go get your husband, Jesus told her. She said, about that, I don't have a husband. Jesus said, you're right. You don't have a husband, for you had 5 husbands. And you aren't even married to the man you're living with now. You certainly spoke the truth. This woman said, sir, I perceive you are a prophet. I can just see that whole, you know what? You might be the son of God. But I want you to see the playbook Jesus has given us. You've probably never seen this before. Jesus engaged her humanity and said he would drink from her cup, and it granted him access to her personal and spiritual needs. See, what we want to solve is people's problems, but we have not even engaged their life. And until I know you care, I've heard it said like this, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. when you tell them, when you show them, when you live like you care, they'll let you into their problems. I don't care if you're a white person, and don't care if you ain't never been to the north side. If you saw a baby get shot, you should be able to say, I'm so sorry that happened. No matter if the cop was wrong, it don't matter. If we don't engage, then we can open up. If you're a black person and you're walking around and you have affluence and you see somebody poor and you don't help them because, that's trailer trash or that's that they've lifted. No, you should be able to, I know what it's like to not have enough. Because until we engage people's humanity, you're not going to get access to their real needs. And so Jesus gets access to this woman's life. They went from talking about water to her immoral lifestyle. Just like that. And then look, verse 20, it goes even deeper. Because then she starts asking him questions about their race. See, when you get relationship with somebody, I have friends that are white. One of my closest friends is David, and he was in that video. David, you're somewhere in here. There you go, Dave. Dave's white. Like Dave is just white. But we have a relationship where he can ask me about anything. And I can ask him about anything because we engage each other's humanity first. Then we started talking about our spiritual needs, our needs for accountability, our needs for... And now, once you get that, you can start asking questions about the race. Like as a whole. Like there's white people in here that have questions about black people. There are black people in here, like if you really got to talk to a white person, be like, why do y'all do that? Well, what is that? But see, we've never had those exchanges because most people don't get close enough to have. And so Jesus and this woman go talking about water. Then they talk about her sin issue. Then she says, well, I got some questions about you Jews. So tell me why. That's how it starts. Verse 20. Why is it that Jews insist that Jerusalem is the only place to worship, while we Samaritans claim that it's here on Mount Gerizim where our ancestors worship? She's like, why do y'all all go to church over there and y'all be shouting and jumping and speaking in tongues? Jesus replied, believe me, dear woman, the time is coming where it will no longer matter whether you worship the Father on this mountain, at the AME church, at the Kojic church, at the Pentecost. It's not going to matter if you at Guthrie Green. It's not going to matter where you're worshiping. He said, you know very little about the one you worship. What he was telling her is like, you're making generalizations about a whole group of people because your daddy told you that, and your daddy's daddy told him that, and your daddy's daddy told him that, and your daddy's daddy's daddy told you that. And he said, your daddy didn't know what he was talking about. And your daddy's daddy didn't know what he's talking about. Your daddy's daddy didn't know what he was talking about. He said the paradigm which you need to be thinking about is spirit and truth. And when it comes to this racial reconciliation, it's got to be spirit and truth. It has to be the absolute truth, which is the word of God. And that's what we go. So when the Bible tells us to love our enemy, that's what we have to do. When it tells us we're supposed to turn the other cheek, that's what we have to do. When it tells us we're supposed to do for the least of these. So Jesus, like some of us, we're doing things because our daddy told us to. And our daddy's daddy told, and our daddy's daddy believed this way. And Jesus comes like he came to this woman, your daddy and your daddy's daddy and your daddy's daddy's daddy and your daddy's daddy's daddy didn't know what they was talking about. This is about spirit and truth. So can I break it down? If your father was racist, if your grandmother was prejudiced, I'm talking black, white, Hispanic, I'm talking everything. If the uncle who raised you had just a racial bend. Y'all know. I had an uncle one time told me, all white people. I said, Unc, you ain't never been out this city. You don't even know all white people. Like, how can you say that? But it's been things that we've learned. And I came to tell you, they didn't know what they were talking about. They had no idea how beautifully and wonderfully God made every person in this room. They had no clue how much life comes when different ethnicities embrace each other. And we were talking around that table. They showed you 6 minutes of a 2.5-hour conversation I had with different ethnicities. It was probably one of the richest experiences of my whole life because I was open, I was comfortably uncomfortable, and I got to experience relationship with other people. But it comes when we decide to leave what we've been taught and be transformed by the renewing of our minds. Guys, we got to see racial reconciliation, and it's going to start with the organism, not the organization. And it's going to start with us living comfortably uncomfortable, not everything being okay. Look at it. In verse 23, it said, the time is coming indeed. It's here now. Somebody shout at me now. Shout at me now. Now. This is when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. The Father is looking for those who will worship him in this way. For God is spirit, so those who worship him must worship him in the spirit and truth. And Jesus went real deep on her, and she was like, oh, okay. Verse 25, the woman said, well, okay, I know the Messiah is coming, the one who's called Christ. So when he comes, he'll explain everything. And doesn't that sound like the church? Like, we'll all be together in heaven one day. Like, this black and white thing, I'm going to stay on my side of town, you stay on your side of town. But in heaven, when eternity happens, and he said, no. Now, as it is in heaven, that it be on earth. Because we've been given the ministry of reconciliation. Verse 26, then Jesus told her, I'm the one you was talking about. I'm the Messiah. I'm here right now. And if you look at it, isn't Jesus living on the inside of all of us? And didn't he say greater works should we do? He's healing 800 years of racial division in one day, and greater works should we do? That's what the Bible says. He said, just then the disciples came back. They were shocked to find him talking to a woman. But none of them had the nerve to ask, what do you want with her? Why are you talking to her? Now, I want you to see this because you have to read the whole Bible to get this right here. They really weren't mad because she was talking about a woman, because the Bible tells us he's already talked to Mary, Martha. He's talked to the Syrophoenician woman. He's talked to women before. It was because she was a different ethnicity. That it would be like a group of black friends that black power, all this other stuff. And then you see one of the people that's leading the group talking to a white person, and they walk up and like, what? Did he forget what we was here for? Did he forget that we were here to stay segregated and saved? Did Jesus forget? But none of them had the nerve to ask the question. And this is a beautiful picture because it encourages me. Is that the disciples, as many miracles as they performed, they were still racist. Think about it. Think about it. At this place in their journey, and this is the beautiful thing, that God can still use you if you have broken areas. They weren't healed all the way in this area. They still have some more time to get this right. But it proves to us that this journey with Christ is not a perfection thing. It's a progression thing. And the disciples were still racist right here. Verse 28 said, so the woman left the water jar beside the well, ran back to the village telling everyone. She had a great interaction with one person who was a different ethnicity, and she had to go back and tell everybody else because she got living water. She got saved. Come and see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could he possibly be the Messiah? So the people came streaming from the village to see him. Now, I want you to see this. A group of disciples went into the city with no intention of reconciliation, came back with no results. One man had a positive interaction outside of the city that changed her so much that she went back into the city and told everybody she knew, and they came to Jesus. See, you're waiting on the organization to do something, and God said, I can do one more with one person who would show my love and would cross the line and live comfortably uncomfortable. And they'll come and say, what must I do to be saved? Meanwhile, verse 31, the disciples were urging Jesus, Rabbi, eat something. But Jesus replied, man, I got a food that you don't know nothing about, boy. Woo! You know when you have something good to eat, you're like, Verse 33, did somebody bring him some Chick-fil-A while we walked 10 miles to get him this church's chicken, and somebody brought him some Chick-fil-A? Look, that's what my Bible says. Verse 34 says, then Jesus explained, see, my nourishment comes from doing the will of God, from actually doing the ministry of reconciliation. My nourishment comes from being obedient to God's word who sent me, and from finishing his work. Verse 35, you know the saying, 4 months between planting and harvest. But I say, wake up. Look around. The field's already ripe for harvest. See, right here, Jesus was doing a social experiment to say either we're going to be the church that goes at this issue or we're going to wait 4 months. Oh, yeah, we'll get together and do a racial reconciliation event and we'll have balloons and jumpies for the kids and we'll come together. He said, but look around. There are people coming to you right now. There are people at your job right now. There are people that you're on Instagram with right now and Facebook right now. He said the field is ripe for harvest. And if you look at where we're at in our city, in our world about this racial reconciliation, the light shines bright in the darkest times. The field is ripe right now for one of God's children, an organism to raise up and say, we don't have to do it like this. I'm going to cross the line of my uncomfortability. I'm going to have a conversation with somebody. In fact, I'm going to invite you to my family gathering. Yeah, it's going to make all my family uncomfortable, but we got to start living comfortably uncomfortable. Why? Because I have been given the ministry of reconciliation. Until I do something, nobody's going to do anything. And I want you to get this picture as we close. God's telling us to wake up. Look around. So many different ethnicities that God has placed you around, but you still go home with your 4 friends. You still, well, I don't know what to say. Like Moses, I'm telling you, open your mouth and God will fill it. Well, what if I'm disrespectful? You'll learn. All the things that you've put as a blockage, God will change in you. And I want you to see this. We've heard it said, Mark 12:31, that we're supposed to love our neighbor as ourselves. But can I rephrase it? Love requires relationship. What do you love that you don't have a relationship with? Nothing. If we're going to love our neighbor, it's going to require a relationship. 1 John 4:20, it says, if someone says, I love God, but hates his fellow believer, then that person is a liar. For if we don't love people we can see, how can we love God who we cannot see? Because Jesus, one organism, decided to live comfortably uncomfortable and meet this woman of a different ethnicity at a place of common ground. They were able to share an exchange that changed her life and pointed her to the Father. She went back and told all of her friends. The entire city is now coming to meet Jesus because of one man. See, the best part of this whole thing is in verse 40. See, the people came. Now, I want you to get the picture real quick. Jesus is about to tell the disciples, we got to minister to all these men you see coming from the town. And this either was going to be a race riot, because Peter cuts people's ears off. You understand what I'm saying? This was either going to be a race riot or a revival. And it turned into a revival because people who had prejudice in their heart allowed God to fill it up and started to engage people that didn't look like them. The most beautiful part, verse 40, it says, when they came out to see him, they begged him to stay in their village. So he stayed for 2 days. Get the picture. When they met at noon, the woman declared the first thing, we don't have nothing to do with each other. White people and black people, we don't have nothing to do with each other. Hispanics and Asians, we don't got nothing to do. Europeans, we don't got nothing to do with each other. By that evening, He had booked a 2-night stay in the hood. And they were begging him to stay. Because when their relationship came into a place where they exchanged with one of God's creations, it became one of the richest experiences in their life. And then the Bible says that many were saved because of that one interaction. So what are you asking us to do, Pastor Mike? Last point, take the risk. Take the risk to look stupid. Take the risk to be the only white people to show up in a predominantly black congregation. Take the risk to invite somebody to your family reunion. Now, you know your family. Take the risk. Because if, as the organism, we don't do something and start to do it, then we just stay at the same place. We on our Facebook, at our barbershop, at our own place, talking crazy about whatever, but nothing changed. And God has given every Christ follower. Now, anybody who's not a believer, it's all good. I'm not talking to you. But anybody who believes in Jesus, you've been given the ministry of reconciliation. And now it's time for us to use it. So if you could bring me out my prop real fast. Hey, I love sandwiches, and but a sandwich is not complete for me. Now, if I come to your house and you make a sandwich, do not put no mayonnaise on my sandwich. Just leave it plain. Because the only thing that goes on my sandwiches is the miracle of the whip. And let me, hey, glory. This will take some raw meat and make it a blessing. But as I begin to study how this was made, it has two major ingredients that aren't supposed to go together. And it kind of reminds me of the enemy's plan for the beginning of division. It like black and white is not supposed to go together. Races aren't supposed to go together. And it's oil and water. I mean, you can whip it, you can blend it, you can shake it, and as soon as you quit all of that, they separate. Oil and water doesn't go together until it comes in contact with what's known as an emulsification process. And see, the emulsifier in Miracle Whip is an egg. And one part of the egg grabs the oil, and the other part of the egg grabs the water. And when it mixes together, it becomes one. If we're gonna make the picture of heaven on earth, when you meet Jesus, it becomes the emulsifier of every race. Where it'll take a white believer and a black believer and an Asian believer and a Hispanic believer, and it will bring them together, and no longer will we be apart, but it'll be a miracle. A picture of heaven on earth. I don't want you to ever eat a sandwich the same. But more importantly, I don't want you to ever live the same. Cross the line. Be the organism who lives comfortably uncomfortable and is able to identify with others. Take the risk and get relationship with somebody that doesn't look like you. And if it starts with you, it will impact so many others. Can we give God praise right now?